Very nice reception. Thank you very much. And very nice introduction. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. So hello, everyone. My name is Maite Bezerra. I'm a senior principal analyst for Omdia. I specialize in software-defined vehicles. And it is my great pleasure to moderate this panel on Agentic AI with these amazing panelists. So I'm sure we are going to have a very good discussion. Now, at CES last year, AI was everywhere. But we were talking a lot about Gen AI. This year, it feels like the focus is changing more towards Agentic AI. So Patrick, we were on stage last year, we talked about Gen AI, now we are talking about Agentic AI. So from people that are still trying to figure, what is the difference? What has changed? Why is this a breakthrough? Can you give us an idea on why do we think Gen AI is so important?
Sure. Well, great to be here. And holy cow, that was just 1 year ago, and it feels like in AI time that was a decade ago. I think there's been a lot of progress in fundamental AI model capabilities over the last year that have really advanced. And I think what really transitions things from generative AI, or taking a text prompt and generating text out of it, to agentic AI, which is AI kind of doing things on your behalf as a user. There's been three major advancements that have really pushed that along. One of them is multimodality. So the frontier foundation models today are not just about text input and output. I know that's still how a lot of us interact with AI in chatbots and things like that, but these AI models now understand pixels, whether coming from a camera, presented from an app on a screen or on the web or whatever it might be. They understand sound. They understand all these different modalities. The second thing is they're better at thinking. So you hear about thinking models. They don't just kind of take the input and immediately answer, like maybe some of us on this panel will today. I don't know. You be the judge. But they actually think and plan and can evaluate their plans. And the third thing is they've gotten much better at using tools. So not everything in the world is accessible to AI. Many tools, many things were built for users to interact with, or people to interact with. But now these models are getting much better at using those tools. So it can use Google Maps to plan a route and understand traffic. It could use OpenTable to book you a table. And those three things together, kind of multimodality, thinking models, and tool use, have really brought us to the point where we can now transition from generative AI, or text prompts and text output, to agentic AI.
And we're talking about action as well, right?
Yeah, taking action on the user's behalf to get things done for them.
Perfect. Thank you. But now it's interesting because we're talking about all of this transition in AI, but what about the car, right? The car is something that we normally use from go to point A to B. And I would like to hear from Magnus. How do you see the use of Agentic AI in the vehicle context, and how will this add to the user experience?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And it's really remarkable to see how now just AI, but also Agentic AI, is already having concrete impacts on several products, not just the automobile, but several products out there, and how we use differently. So the way we look at AI and Agentic AI is that we really need to create a different experience, a different customer experience. And let me take two examples. One very concrete first example is just being able to interact with the beautiful object, the Mercedes-Benz car. In the past, it has been very awkward and cumbersome to try to do voice inputs and so forth. It has been stuck in a certain format, and you could only say certain things. Now with agents. So one of them is the Gemini, another one is another model, which name I'm not going to say, but we have multi-agents who are then helping us to decode what is it that you actually say and what you want to say so that you're able to speak fluently. What is happening now very, very quickly is that it's becoming, with the help of these agents that have different tools, it can then also fulfill more and more activities. It can already today, it can fulfill also to complete the navigation request. So I want to go to somewhere and I don't need to spell the name, or I don't need to do, I can just speak like I speak fluently and it understands me. It's going to be fulfilling more and more requests. And this is really where the agentic comes in. And this is, when we sit here 12 months from now, we're back here next year, you know, we're going to have a large volume of agents that our Hey Mercedes can interact with. So it's going to change how it fulfills things for us through voice. But maybe the more exciting, where I am excited about how it's going to change the user experience, is that everything that we have on our screens, and if you've been in a Mercedes lately, you can see that we have a very beautiful canvas. We call it a display, a canvas. And in the past, this has also been very static. It has been a certain look and feel, and it's been very rigid. And now with these agents, it's going to basically use this canvas in ways that we cannot imagine. And this is maybe where the content creators come in and basically helping us to say, well, how can you imagine your experience when you're then using Spotify or something else? It's going to be feeling very different, and it's going to be very individual. And that is how Agentic AI, for me, is really exciting, is that it makes an object, a beautiful object like a Mercedes-Benz, really come to life.
I love that. I'm excited to experience that. But, you know, there are always skeptical people in the room, right? I mean, AI has become such of a hype, right? We see sprinkles, people are trying to sprinkle AI in everything. So, Ivan, from you, this is a difficult question. Can you give us some concrete use cases that you would think people, customers would think, oh, I can't live without this anymore? Something that will be able and possible with Agentic AI.
Well, thank you for having me. Wow, what a crowd. Yeah, this is a very interesting question indeed. So I think if you look at all the companies today, you know, there are many thousands of use cases with AI, you know, inventing all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, what I believe is very important is the things that make people's life easier. And so I think not anybody would like to tweak the equalizer as an audio file, for example. But there are definitely cases where, you know, we can make a meaningful difference. So for example, I'm driving to a business meeting and there is a traffic jam on the Autobahn. And you know, the Agentic AI will know that I am being delayed. It will have access to my emails and my calendar, and maybe it will notify the occupants of the meeting that I'm delayed and maybe schedule a Teams call on my behalf. So these are all the things I would need to do manually and while driving, which is definitely not safe. So if this kind of proactivity is achieved, that this is one of the cases where it really makes sense. So that's like a business use case. But even in a private cases, if, for example, you know, I'm going with my family to a vacation, I would really like the Agentic AI system to take care of, you know, entertainment for my daughter, remember what kind of favorite games they are, or even, you know, suggest, you know, the spots on the road that we could use to, you know, stop and sightsee. Also, at the same time, if we are hungry, remember my favorite food, remember, you know, somebody doesn't eat something. So these little things, when they all add up, they make a very meaningful experience. On the other hand, I think you made a very good point. People always remember the mistakes, right? So if 9 out of 10 times this does the job, and this one time it really makes a big mistake, people will really remember that. So it is very essential to have the MLOps, to have the extensive testing, because as we all know, LLMs are extremely powerful, but from time to time they do make some funny mistakes and they're still convinced they're right. So this has to be catched in testing.
Thank you. I love the use cases, especially the one when you are late for a meeting, because that kind of happen often with me. Jonathan, now putting you on spot, do you have any use cases that you think will be possible with Agentic AI?
For us at Spotify, well, thanks again, first of all, for having me. For us at Spotify, AI is a tool. It's not the end game and the end goal. It's just a tool to help us to build a great experience. And that's really been at the core of what we've done since the beginning. We've taken a blend of human expertise, so editorialization for playlists that had that human touch. Our editors were like rock stars making these great playlists and curating the soundtrack, to now blending that with innovative tech. So that's only been a force multiplier for us to scale this, to reach the personalization. Of course, our AI DJ tool. I think it's just going to make the drive easier. I really think it's going to give us a true lean-back experience. It's going to help have more focus on the road, less stress about what to play, what to listen to. It'll be great when you're alone, you're wanting to relax, you're wanting to learn something. If it knows the occupants of the vehicle, oh, that would be awesome to say, let's play the kids' music, right? To calm them down if there's a baby in the back seat, or if dad wants to rock out when they drop the kids off, go for it. I think those kind of seamless transitions, and then ultimately the end game, the dream I feel like I have is just to see that music, audio flows through every speaker, just like water, seamlessly, without any kind of taps. From your phone to your car, to your home, to your office. I mean, now it's multiple taps, multiple steps. We should be anticipating that and have the volume just right for the room, for the cabin, for the climate. Lots of exciting stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Any other use cases? Those already convinced me, but just wondering, any other examples? No, that's okay. Now, Jonathan, you mentioned a word that came to my mind, dream. So what we're talking about here is extremely exciting, but the reality today is you are using your phone and your phone knows everything about you and you have a great user experience. You enter your car, it's like this is broken. You will start from zero. There's absolutely no interaction between the vehicle ecosystem and the car ecosystem and the phone ecosystem. And you were mentioning smart home ecosystem, right? Or being able to talk to the city, so the ITS ecosystem. We will actually see this bridge being built, and is Agentic AI the technology that will build this bridge? Ivan, if you'd like to start.
Okay, another tough one, right? So let me start with a little market research that we did. I think it was end of 2025. So it was in the Chinese market. So we asked the people who own a car with an infotainment system and a home audio system, what would they take, or would they like to switch things to be able to, use these things together, like car to home, home to car. And interestingly enough, like about 33% of responders would change the car and the home device in order to make them smarter, which I was really amazed with that. And if it's only one of those two devices, it's 66%. So definitely the demand is there. People expect the continuity between the experience in home, in the car, and vice versa. Now, of course, the questions are the challenges, right? So if we look at the, let's say, a legacy infotainment system from some years ago, these are very complex pieces of architecture. So you have multiple ECUs, you have the multiple operating systems even multiple suppliers. So getting the data to be exchanged and used by Agentic AI is a challenge there, right? Another challenge is the complexity. If you work on automotive projects, we're talking about multi-year project durations, and these durations are completely too long if you see the consumer world. So this is, and then another thing is also maybe the car companies sometimes see those personal devices as maybe, I wouldn't say an afterthought, but let's say something which is not as important as the devices which is embedded in the car. And I think here is exactly where Agentic AI with standards like A2A and MCP comes to play. So if the platform is equipped with ability to use agents, and if the devices in a car expose the signals and the sensory data, then you really have a very powerful tool that can bridge this different ecosystem. So if I'm a UX person, I really don't need to think about how to integrate a certain content service provider or a certain service. The agent will take care of that, and the UX would be common to any type of service provider. So I think this is really where this thing is going to shine. But of course, what is necessary are the prerequisites, the operating system, the agent store. They all need to be agent ready, but we're all working on that.
Brilliant. Well, I would like to see, Jonathan, do you also have something to add on? Do you think Agentic AI will bring this bridge in between these different ecosystems?
I think it's going to set the expectation. Users are going to get it everywhere. We don't want the car to be the last place, but I think the car has the opportunity, especially with entertainment, audio and video, to blow people's minds. I think that's where it can be the most exciting, and I think it can take an experience where people have turned inward, like kids in the backseat. When I was growing up, it was whatever my dad's music taste was. That became my music taste. I didn't have a choice, right? It was the radio or cassette. Kids these days, AirPods are in, they don't care. They have no idea. I'm really grateful that I had good taste influence growing up, but we need to take the AirPods out. We need to create an experience that connects everyone in the family again, everyone on the road trip again, and AI is going to make magical things like that happen. Otherwise, we're all still talking about silos. So we have to open the ecosystem up. We have to be thinking about these experiences, but the car is really where I think it's going to shine. Magnus talks about a canvas. That's exactly what it is. It's not just a canvas for users, but it's a canvas for creators as well. Thinking about bringing a live concert experience into a car and having the whole car dynamically evolve to that, that'd be amazing.
Well, thank you for putting Magnus on spot. I would do that as well. Magnus, do you envision this, then the vehicle being integrated with your phone, being integrated with your home, and you having this full experience? Is this something that you are looking to achieve within Mercedes?
Absolutely. So it's now 5 years in the making of what we call the software-defined vehicle. Our brand name for that is the Mercedes-Benz operating system, and it's not a real-time operating system like Linux or any other real-time operating system. It's really the way that we connect your digital lifestyle. No matter where you are in the world, if you are in a Chinese digital lifestyle ecosystem, if you're in a US digital lifestyle, or if you're in a European, it's the software-defined vehicle for MBUS is there to make sure that we are enabling the music experiences that you love, or if it's the video experience that you love, or in our case, a lot of our customers also are tied into an office digital ecosystem. Sometimes that digital ecosystem has been picked by your company. Sometimes you picked it yourself, but that flexibility needs to be there, and we can only do that by having this software-defined vehicle, so that we can cater for our different partners to come in and tie that experience in. Concretely, what does that mean? Is that on one side, we as humans, we pick the things around us based on our preferences in life. Do we enjoy a luxurious seat like this with leather comfort seats and so forth, or do we prefer something more separate? Do we prefer a private? The Mercedes-Benz philosophy is that people who have a desire to have beautiful physical objects around them and have a beautiful location, we will also want that digital experience to be a beautiful experience. And therefore, the canvas that I spoke about is a part just as much physical as it is digital, but it needs to be experienced in that environment. It needs to be fitting into that environment. So our world, or our job, is to enable this seamless flow between the digital world and the physical world, but it's also to make sure that it doesn't look like or experiences like kind of people have put different stickers on the experience. That's not a beautiful experience. That would be a hodgepodge of different stickers. So that is really the way, and this is where agentic tools is going to help us to curate that and put this together, so that it's a blend between the experience that comes from a certain creator plus the magic of being in a Mercedes-Benz vehicle.
Brilliant. I love this idea. But what I'm wondering is, Patrick, in a world where everyone decides to come up with their own agents, right? So you have Spotify having an agent, you have Cinemo having an agent, Mercedes, Google. How do you make these agents talk to each other and have a seamless experience, and as opposed to what Magnus was saying, but it doesn't look like the stickers that you're trying to put together, right? So how do you make all of these things that are created in isolation to communicate and work?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one I think the industry, frankly, is working through now. As Ivan said, there are protocols being defined already. So agent-to-agent protocol and model context protocol are ways for agentic AI to communicate with other services in an AI-forward kind of API rather than through a user interface, and then agents to communicate with each other. I think when we talk about the experience that we think users want going forward, not just in the vehicle, but I think it's especially true in the vehicle. You want a truly personal agent. So it needs to have your personal context. That is incredibly important. The use case that Ivan talked about, you're driving and you want to look for food. Okay, well, it's helpful if it knows that my daughter is a vegetarian, and so don't send us to a fast food burger joint or something, right? So that personal context is really important. Now, is every individual service going to have all of that personal context? That becomes kind of a privacy and a logistical complication. So the industry is working this out now in terms of how do you share the right amount of context between services so that you can have a truly helpful agent. What we see in our surveys is by far most users want to interact with the same agent across different services, right? I want that same personal agent on my phone, in the car, on the TV at home, whatever it might be. The way I describe it is, and maybe this will lose some people, but if you've seen Iron Man, he uses Jarvis in all of his different, the car, in the workshop, in the suit, as opposed to Downton Abbey, where you have a chauffeur, and you have a butler, and you have a cook. And if they're sharing context between all of them, like, it's a big privacy issue. I think we need to solve that as an industry. How do you create kind of device specific? Your Mercedes-Benz agent should know and be true to that Mercedes-Benz. It shouldn't be out of place. And yet, you want that same context, that same helpfulness that you have across your other devices. It's a big thing for the industry now, and we're already seeing tremendous progress in this.
This is fantastic, and to the point that you're mentioning, right, about they need to talk, but you need to share the right amount of context, but you also need to make sure that you keep the system safe and secure. So cybersecurity needs to be addressed, especially when you're talking about the car. So Ivan, I was wondering, how can these be addressed if you have a agent orchestrator, for example? How would that work?
Well, yeah, to add to Patrick's point, this is also an opportunity. So in the past, if we had the centralized model where you have one service provider having all of the personal data of yours, but in case of the agentic AI, we could actually filter which personal data goes to which agent and a tool. And we're doing also a lot of testing with that. And I think, there is also a difference between regions. So in some regions of the world, people are especially sensitive to privacy. In some other regions, they don't really care. But as a global OEM, you have to basically make everybody happy with this. So one of the ways to do this is the clear transparency. So give the users the power to understand, okay, I have my health data. I really don't want to share this health data with the specific service provider. Or, I'm very happy to share other personal data that will improve the service. But if we show this in a, let's say, easy to understand, not legalese way, okay, we need your facial information to, make something checkout process better. Or we need your health data if you want to participate in certain programs. So this is definitely possible. And it's very important to have this filtering system which understands, what data to feed to which agent. So that's definitely important. On top of that, of course, the system, like the automotive systems are different than other consumer devices. So you need to build them with the cybersecurity certifications in mind. But that's just the basic step, because when we're talking about agentic AI, you're basically giving your private life facts a lot. And so this thing actually has access to a lot of personal information that can be sensitive. Another thing is that, you might have different use cases in a car where I'm alone. And if I'm alone in a car, the Jarvis can tell my confidential emails, my private stuff. But if there is an unrecognized guest in a car, the agent should recognize this and drop the privacy level to something less sensitive, of course. And if there is a kid in the car, of course, then we also need to filter from age-appropriate content. So it's definitely a very tough problem which industry is working on. But I think it's also a great opportunity because we have this possibility of fine-grained controls.
Actually, a follow-up question on that is how flexible is it for an OEM, for example, to change these filters? For example, I think I mentioned this to Magnus. I was talking about the levels of software-defined vehicles and what the last level being agentic vehicle. And I was giving this example of the car talking to my smart ring and knowing where I'm flying to. And I presented this in different regions. And when I presented this in Germany, the audience seemed afraid. Whereas the other audience were like, oh, this looks interesting. But they were like, well, I don't know. It's very private. I don't know if I want that. So I'm wondering, and of course, if you think about Europe, you have GDPR. If you think about Asia, there is a different level of how much information you can share. So do you think it would be easy and flexible for the OEMs to fine-tune what the agents share in between them in different regions?
It's definitely a key element that has to be built into an operating system like MBUS if you want to provide this type of private but also personal experience. So in MBUS and in our systems today, we have the same kind of privacy and safety philosophy, both to your physical safety as well as your digital safety. So it's it's built into the brand promise. How to do it? Well, it's ultimately need to become an individual decision. And an individual decision, so the consumer, at the end of the day, our customers can decide, do I want to participate in these kind of activities? And it's built into how we then propagate that through our entire stack. So from a pure software perspective, what that means is that when we are offering our services, there is always a base services, always a base setup that do not require any private data or private activities. It needs to be working in that mode. It also needs to be working when you're not connected to the internet, right? There is, of course, many scenarios and many places in the world where you cannot be connected or where you cannot have that up. So it's built into our principle that you're opting in or opting out, and you're absolutely correct. It's a huge difference, even in Germany. Between the typical S-Class customers, which is slightly older than me, even though I'm losing hair, but to S-Class customers in China, which, believe it or not, many times it's their first car. They buy it as their first vehicles. So of course it needs to be individualized. It needs to be then context, because we have such a variance between, no, I absolutely do not want to share any of my private information, up to, please share everything, and I want to have a very personalized experience. But just tying it back to some of the work that we've been doing together with Patrick, because one of the principles that we discussed with our partners very early, and Google is a perfect example of that, they have privacy and safety extremely high, because it would be devastating to Google if that privacy was not upheld. So it's very important for us when we then built with our partners that we have the same principle. And it's basically when we then have a consent, we don't share that private information to all of our partners. It's only sharing by need. So for example, if you are going to ask for point of interest and then navigate to a certain location, the partner involved in that chain only need to have that information about, okay, where are you intending to go and where are you right now and what restaurant did you talk about? You don't need to share all of the information.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Ivan said, it comes down to user transparency and control. Google, Mercedes, Cinemo, Spotify, we're not the arbiters of what information is shared with whom. It has to be up to the consumers, and they'll make the value judgment based on their privacy concerns, but also how much value they get out of sharing that additional context. So I think user transparency and control is paramount.
That's brilliant. I love this. I love this answer. Now, one thing that comes to mind is when you think about an active device or an active agent, there is the part that adds convenience, but then it could be intrusive. Right? Sometimes you don't actually want the agent taking an action. So just wondering, Jonathan, from your perspective, how do you create this balance in between the agents being helpful or being intrusive and actually annoying the customer?
It's all about building trust. I think that's built over time. I think that's something we've done. So when we introduced AI DJ and he said, "What's up, Jonathan? I've got some great music for you today." It wasn't like, wait, how, of course Spotify knows me because they've been building recommendations all throughout my 12 years of having an account or 13 years of having an account. It's built and it's earned, and it's certainly permissions-based. I think our privacy policy makes that clear, what you can opt out of, what we're using the data for. Just this super transparent, super clear, super transparent, but it's all built on trust. If we don't have that, then we've lost everything. And that's, for us, it's about trust with consumers, trust with artists and creators, because it's their content, it's their work that we're bringing to the world. So we have to build our foundations on that. It's not possible without it.
Brilliant. Now, Magnus, now that we're talking about this full experience, when can we expect to actually see this in production vehicles?
Thank you for asking. So we are shipping products right now. So first of all, the latest and greatest product we started with our CLA, which is actually our smallest vehicle, that has now a software-defined vehicle, architecture software-defined vehicle experience. It's already shipping in China and in Europe, and in the next couple of days, it starts to be rolling to customers here in the USA as well. And if you notice, the number of hairs are getting lesser on my head. It's not just the age, but it's also that every Mercedes vehicle within this year is going to get this experience, regardless if it's a combustion vehicle or a hybrid vehicle or a battery electric vehicle. They're all getting the same experience, and so it's been an interesting couple of years. It's been interesting 2025, and if you listen to Jensen's keynote, he was also talking about the experience, how we were transforming the way that also the automated driving experience is happening, and this is all, of course, only possible through moving away from rule-based approaches to how we do that. Also, then using this new technology in order to really train our models, and basically using the high compute NVIDIA chips in order to run this computer, so that you can actually then relax and enjoy even more to the experience, because not having that cognitive load to find your way through traffic and so forth, but having that experience to drive you there, it's a huge enabler. So coming to a US city of your choice in the next days and weeks.
Wow, that is impressive and exciting. I honestly, I have to agree. I think transformers and agentic AI, they are a complete breakthrough, right? What we're achieving now, we couldn't achieve that before. Now, being conscious of the time, I'm going to ask you a question. Short answer, please. But I would like to hear from you. Looking 5 years ahead, what excites you the most about agentic AI, and what keeps you up at night? I will start that with Ivan.
All right, bugs. That's just a joke. No, I think Jarvis is a very good example. So when the movie came out, this was, yeah, it's a sci-fi movie, right? But as we see today, this is becoming a reality. So being able to, like a concierge that understands you and solves all your problems, or even being proactive and advise how to do certain things. This is definitely what's going to come in the next, I wouldn't even say 5 years, probably way, way earlier than that. And I think I'm really dreaming for one day, just getting into my car, everything is ready for me, everything is ready for the other occupants, and I can just focus on, enjoying the road if it's not an autonomous vehicle, or if it's an autonomous vehicle doing some work.
Yeah. Patrick?
So 5 years out is a very long time. So I can tell you, kind of following on Magnus's answer of how, just to emphasize to people how quickly this is coming. In the next few months, we're rolling out Gemini to vehicles with Google built in. This will be tens of millions of vehicles already on the road, vehicles that go as far back as 2020, across 10 different brands. And this will enable you with an experience that is agentic. You can opt in, it's user transparency control, to give it access to your email, to your calendar. It can access your Spotify, and it knows your playlists. And we will be adding support for many other integrations and services. It will have your personal context. It will have the vehicle context. So it knows your range. It knows some, everything, how to turn on or adjust the one pedal driving and things like that. We're testing this now. One of my favorite use cases from very recently, I was looking to buy a new TV. We have TVs now with Gemini, and so I was looking to go get one, and I asked, hey, can you check if Best Buy San Francisco has this TV in stock? It knows how to browse the web, and it will check Best Buy's inventory. Then I said, can you tell me, will this box fit in my car? It knows what kind of car I have. It looks up the size of the trunk. It looks up the size of the TV box, and it tells me, yes, if you put the second row seats down, you'll be able to fit this in your car. And then it says, would you like to add a stop at Best Buy? Yes. Like this is not 5 years out. This is coming, within 5 months. So that's what it really excites me. I think similar to what Ivan said, what keeps me up at night is, the sense of urgency. I mean, there's such competition in this space, such innovation. It's just, you want to move as fast as possible. There's such capability with these models, but on the flip side, you want to make sure it's purely a good experience for users.
You can clearly see I come from the automotive industry, right? 5 years, 10 years, and things are moving so fast right now. Jonathan, so for you, what excites you the most?
Well, now I make a playlist for my drive. I curate the music, the soundtrack, because I think that's what makes car driving so emotional, I think. I'd love in 5 years to be able to have a drive for my playlist. I'd love a route to be planned that fits the music. Just that magic. Again, I think it's all about the emotional connection to driving, which we just go for drives. Especially in America. But there's so much fun and pleasure in driving by yourself, with friends, with others. I think that I want technology to enable a more emotional connection to driving and to content that artists work so hard to create, that podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. I think that it just needs to be an authentic emotional connection, and that technology can enable that. I think we'll see that in 5 years. I hope we'll see it in 5 years. What keeps me up at night? Lots of things keep me up at night. On this topic, I think silos, fragmentation, and templates, right? Silos, if we're working in silos as the industry, and it's the arms race, there's all these competition, this brand's doing that thing. If there has to be some kind of sharing, some kind of collaboration, some kind of standards that are set, foundations to be built upon. Otherwise, we will have more fragmentation, which is like when I started at Spotify 12 years ago, there were about 14 different ways to get Spotify into the car. 14 different standards, right? That's the meme. Thanks to Android Automotive, we've got a lot of simplifications and more things like that, more collaboration. And templates, I mean, again, letting apps express themselves, create the content coming out of the apps express themselves. I think if that isn't there, if we're just relying on a purely agentic UI, then everything just becomes a file server. I think that's not a future we want, because that's not going to allow any brand, any artist, any app, any platform to express itself, or any OEM to express itself. I want the Mercedes dash to look and feel like a Mercedes. So I think having the freedom for the OEMs, for the creators to express that without being put in a box and stickers all over the dashboard, like you said, that's important. That keeps me up at night.
Brilliant. Well, last but not least, Magnus, what excites you and what keeps you up at night?
Well, what's exciting is, of course, the customer feedbacks we're getting and learning from the customer. It's such a different game right now, where you every day are learning what is individuals doing and integrating that back into the development process and seeing, okay, what is actually being accepted, what is not being accepted, what are ideas and so forth, and that's exciting me that we're now not only with new technologies can do fascinating things, but actually it enables us to really curate and get a truly customer-centric experience. That's exciting me. What keeps me up at night? Well, of course, competition. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal, and of course the silos, the barriers in the various parts of the world is not making it easier. But it's really nice to see how the short cycles is a real reality. Short cycles of and the direct connections with the customers.
Brilliant. This was a phenomenal discussion, and I can't wait to have an agentic car. So thank you very much, and please, the audience, help me thanking this amazing panel.